I just couldn't help myself today. I did a whole bunch of sets before I even went to the gym today. I had the kiddies for the first part of the day, so I got to the gym around 1 o'clock. Dropped them off at my parents' house and went straight to the gym. But before that, I ended up doing 6 sets of 30 of what is called the Hindu squat. So yesterday's video, just spontaneously, this idea came up. You guys saw the video yesterday. I was really stiff all throughout the body. It was cold. It was early, 4:30 in the morning. I was sore in the hamstrings, glutes, back. Everything was locked up because of the deadlifts the day before. And then you got the early, session with really cold weather. It was like 5 degrees or something like that. So I couldn't squat all that well. And so my heels kept coming up. So I led them yesterday. I let them come up and I did a whole bunch of sets. I think I did 3 sets all up with just heel elevated squats. So I called them heel off the floor or something like that, heel off the ground squats. One of you guys actually said in the comments that these are actually called Hindu squats. It's kind of like similar to Sissy Squats, what Tom Platz used to do. I've seen a lot of that in the past. But Hindu squats is kind of like that, where you are, flat-footed at the top, and then you go straight down, vertical torso, and then wherever the knees go, wherever your ankles go, they go. But the whole idea is to have vertical torso and squat up and down. Basically ends up being just a fully vertical squat and fully quad-dominated squat. So I did that yesterday. I went to work, did full day of work, whatever. Woke up this morning and my mind just kept racing. Wow, like could I grease the groove with this stuff? Now, greasing the groove by the book means that you're doing 30 to 60% of your maximum repetitions. That's what you're supposed to do throughout the day. That's greasing the groove. It's kind of like a central nervous system training, motor neuron training, rather than bodybuilding pump training. You're supposed to, stay away from all sorts of exhaustion, burning, pump work. That's, technically greasing the groove. So when I say greasing the groove, I basically mean a bunch of, these sets throughout the day. And I did them, yes, I did them basically to failure or nearabouts. So woke up, had breakfast, fed the kids, we were chilling out, listening to music and whatever. And I just got up and I'm like, I can't wait until 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon to test this out. So I just started banging out these sets in the morning. And I ended up doing 6 sets of 30. My Lord, was the pump in the quads unreal. I don't think I remember this type of a pump in the quads ever. Right now I'm sitting here and I'm feeling my quads full of blood, pumped up, on the map. Just feels amazing. Feels amazing. I always say to you guys, I never feel my quads when I squat normally with flat feet. I remember back in the day when I did Sissy Squats, this is probably like 3 years ago now, I did a bit of Sissy Squats and I ended up making my hip pain even worse. So I kind of moved away from that. There wasn't a thing that was helping me at the time with the hip pain, so I just discarded it and kind of left my brain, and that was it. And then yesterday I kind of experienced this Hindu squat business, and I'm loving it. And so today I did 6 sets of 30 before I even got to the gym. Got to the gym, wanted to do some deadlifts, worked up to 240. I think I had more in the tank. I think I had 260, but I left it because I was so exhausted in the quads. I thought, let's just do some squats. Went to squats. I did another set of the Hindu squats, set of 30. But then my quads were just, I was spent basically. Worked up to 180 on the squats. And then I had a moment where I was like, what am I supposed to do now? Go home. I planned to do my set of 50 with 60 kilos. And I sat there and I'm like, no, I shouldn't do this. I'm already exhausted from these Hindu squats. And I thought, let's just screw it, man. Let's just do as best I can. Let's just do 10 or 15 and see how I go. Take a breather and, go from there. I ended up getting 50. I don't know how I got 50. I went to 15 straight, had a breather. And then I went 10, 10. And then I reckon I went, what did I do? Another 10 and then 5. I think that was how I went about getting my 50. So the effects from the previous attempt at 60 kilos for 50 has helped me, clearly. I don't know. Like I was more resilient to the fatigue. I was more resilient to the high reps. And I managed to get it. I had real doubts about getting 50 reps today in the 60 kilos, but I did. Even though I did all of these Hindu squats. The Hindu squats I feel like the vastus medialis, that teardrop muscle, gets absolutely smoked with the Hindu squats, because you have so much knee travel. Like, you're basically sending your knees to the next room, full vertical torso. You know what? Some of you guys were saying, why don't you just wear ollie shoes? No ollie shoes elevate your heel that much. This is literally like you're wearing women's shoes, man, like heels, stilettos, whatever they're called. That's what that is. You're basically like, I don't know how many inches off the damn ground. Like, it's a lot. Sissy Squats do the same thing. With Sissy Squats, I remember Tom Platz doing it. You know, you're basically touching the knees to the ground. That's how far your knees over toes are going. It is all quads. I remember Tom Platz also doing it on the hack squat machine. I mean, that man had incredible ankle mobility, but he would even exaggerate that ankle mobility by lifting the heels off the ground and sending them in further. So it was all about the quads today. It was, you can see as I'm doing them now, like, I mean, even now, like, I still have this tendency to lean forward, even with Hindu squats. But what I found was, I don't know whether you guys have ever tried this, but what I found was my hip flexors were also kind of getting worked. Because when I normally squat, I kind of send my butt backwards a little bit. So they're not being as stretched. Like, this thing is all quads. And so because it's all quads, I feel like the rectus femoris also gets a look into the movement. It's almost like it's a stretch and a flex at the same time. I think that's what Sissy Squats bring to the table. I mean, Sissy Squats are like Hindu squats on steroids, basically. It's like a stretch and then a contraction from a stretch position. It's kind of like the RDLs or stiff leg deadlifts or something along those lines, deficit deadlifts, where you are going to end range of motion and then contracting. I mean, that's basically what PNF stretching is, really. Except when you're doing RDLs and stiff legs and deficits, it's like with heavy weight. So you are like peak muscular contraction in a long state. It's kind of like that with these Hindu squats. Like, when I squat normally, my knees don't go nowhere near that far over my toes. And so I feel like it's almost like a stretch. And, the angle of the knees, it's like there's so much pressure to the knee. Feels good. I mean, feels good. I think some of you guys that have history of knee injuries, knee pain, it might be too extreme to just go straight into this. Maybe you could attach a band like to a squat rack above, like where the pull-up bar is, and attach that to kind of like your armpits, so your body's kind of supported, so you can shave off some of that weight of your body. Maybe you can kind of introduce it that way. But I love how this feels. I was really into my quads, even for the deadlifts, because of all the previous sets that I did with the Hindu squats. Felt amazing, man. I felt like I was all up in my quads. They were fatigued. I wasn't feeling very strong at all today, but I felt good. It was a really nice feeling, especially for somebody that, you guys know how I squat. It's not vertical upright like that. No way. I'm kind of built in a different way, and so I kind of lean over a fair bunch. So keeping my torso up like this, it just feels amazing, man. I was having flashbacks, thinking about, like, Tian Tao, Lou, all these boys. This is how they normally squat, man. It's incredible. Like, it's all quads. Like, it's just all freaking quads, man. It is just a freaking knee extension exercise. That's all that is. You might as well be in a leg extension machine, because that's what's going on. One of you guys said, would this be a good idea to load? I don't know how I'd go about loading the Hindu squats like this, like fully upright. I think yesterday I did load them with 60 kilos or something like that. I just think this is more kind of geared towards high repetition. So it feeds well into what I'm doing right now with the sets of 50 and whatnot. I'm pushing also the deadlifts now for sets of 10. Hopefully I can get 15 next time. But I'm in this high rep, kind of state right now. So I think moving forward, the Hindu squats are going to be part of the routine. I really, really like how they feel. And what I really like about them, I can grease the groove anytime. It's kind of like doing push-ups. I did a whole bunch of greasing the groove push-ups. Made a whole bunch of videos about that back in the day. I think greasing the groove with movements that are just body weight is awesome, because you don't need anything. You can just do it. Like tomorrow, when I get to work, tomorrow's going to be another 4:30 a.m. session. But tomorrow when I get to work, I can bang out these sets anywhere. Like, it's so cool. And it's all in the quads. It's just fully quads. So it's kind of cool like that. Actually really excited about it. I go home and I was telling my wife about it, and I was like, you got to try this. So I had her doing a set, and she was like trembling at the 15th, 16th rep. She's like, this is all in the quads. This is safe for the knees. she was asking. I'm like, yeah, I think it's safe. Because if you think about what knees over toes guys promotes, it's all about sending your knee over your toes. Now, obviously, there's some regressions associated with that. You don't go from a wheelchair to a freaking Hindu squat, a Sissy squat. You don't do that. So it depends on what your conditioning level is, what your training history is. But I think eventually, doing this will be really, really beneficial. So before I do these, like the first few sets this morning that I did, I was actually just sitting in that position, like fully upright torso, heels off the ground, just sitting there, like really kind of stretching the knees out. I don't know if you call it a stretch. But it felt good. It felt good. And I don't know what happened, man. Like when I started squatting the set of 50, I was feeling my quads, but they were not getting fatigued as much. It's weird. Because in the Hindu squat, they're getting much more attention, much more loading than they do when I do these squats. Because right now you can see like I'm sending my butt back. It's more of like a posterior chain orientated squat compared to the Hindu squats, right? So it's kind of like a full body using a posterior chain, anterior chain, everything's going on. But so normally in the last time I attempted set of 50, I got to 20 reps. That's when I was burning up, took a break. And I can't remember, then I did 10 and then 777 or something like that. But this time around, because of the quads were already spent, I stopped at 15 and it was burning up. I was burning up at 15. So at that point I was like, I'm not going to make 50, no way. But I just, stood there, sucked in the oxygen, and it was almost like my body was more prepared to deal with the lactic acid, deal with the breathing. I felt fitter. Simply put, I felt fitter. And I think I could have done even more today than 50. I got to 45 and I thought, Jesus, I'm burning up. I'm going to sit here for about 30 seconds. And then I thought, screw it, I've got 5 more. Let's just bang them out. So I really pushed the last 5 sets. And that's what really did me in. As soon as I racked the bar, man, like all the pain hit me. But it's one of those situations like you're so far in, everything's burning. Do you rest at the top, which is not really a rest because you're still, holding the bar and struggling to breathe? Or do you just fight through, just smash it out and then deal with everything? Just get the bar off my back. So I did that. After I hit 45, I think I took a very brief break, a couple of breaths, and I just went after it. I just wanted the bar off my back. So I'm happy. I'm happy how it went, even though I was pretty fatigued and whatnot. I still got my goal for today, which was, the set of 50 with 60. I also had thoughts about adding a little bit of weight to the bar. I even thought 70 kilos, go for 70 kilos today. Whatever, if I get to 40, if I get to 30, whatever the case might be. But I wanted to work with 70. But because of all the Hindu squats that I did, I thought, let's just stick with 60 for maybe 3 or 4 sessions, a week or 2 or something like that. Really kind of master the whole breathing aspect with a really light weight before I start loading it up. Ideally, I'm kind of aiming for 100 kilos for a set of 50. That's probably a while down the track now. It's mostly cardio. It is really mostly cardio. How can you deal with the breathing? Can you really, recover with that weight on your back? Obviously, when you start loading the weight, the resting becomes even more difficult because 100 kilos on top of you, when you're trying to suck in the air, you're trying to kind of breathe with all that weight on top of you, it's probably going to get harder and harder. It's almost like exponential difficulty because the resting periods are harder and harder because of more and more weight. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling fitter. I'm feeling fresher. This is the benefit of all this kind of cardio-ish type of exercise where you are, working the heart and the lungs, and they get better at doing, oxygen exchange, if you will. They get better at dealing with the carbon dioxide. They get better at your whole system becomes better at buffering acidity, right? Because that's what we kind of create when we start exercising, especially an aerobic exercise like this. When you go into oxygen debt, you start to kind of build acidity within your system, the free hydrogen ions in the blood, and there's all these mechanisms in our body to buffer the acidity in our blood. So I feel like even those systems, I think there's 3 different systems. Wow, I'm going back into the uni days. Anyway. So there's all these different systems which buffer the acidity of the blood. Really, you want to be 735, 745 pH. That's what you want to be. Very, very, very sensitive, particular pH level for the blood. And there's all these different systems that make sure that you're there. So in those moments when you're huffing and puffing, the more efficient you are at using oxygen, I guess, the less byproducts of anaerobic metabolism you produce, and you can kind of last longer. So I've spoken about this before. There's 3 energy systems, and depending on how you train, what you do, you kind of train in these energy systems. So people that do only, sets of 5 and under, they're basically never going to a different energy system, the lactate energy system, which is kind of like the anaerobic / lactic acid system, where you can't just survive, you need oxygen basically to survive. Whereas sets of 5, you basically don't even need to breathe for that, right? You've got enough oxygen stored in your blood or whatever, in your lungs, to get through that. And then you got the third energy system, which is anaerobic, which is purely you need oxygen to supply your movement. That's kind of like your running, long distance stuff and all that. Anyway, that's a different topic for a different day. But basically what I'm saying is I'm training a different energy system that most powerlifters, Olympic weightlifters, train. And so I'm feeling the benefits of that. I'm feeling a lot better. Anyway, guys, I've got a name to mention in this video as well. Roger Calderon popped up on the Patreon list. Really appreciate you, man. Like always, I always say to everyone, the support of you guys is absolutely amazing. I'm truly blessed. So thank you, Roger. Thank you to everyone else on the Patreon list, YouTube comments and Instagram. You guys are legends. You really make me feel special. You make me feel blessed. That's the overarching feeling that I have with this channel and this following and the community we've created. I'll catch you guys tomorrow morning for another one. Peace out.